Thank you.
Hello, good morning. Now, I've got to say straight off, I've got a slightly croaky voice these days, so I can't emulate David's tremendous opening. I've got to speak to you quite quietly, so I'm going to leave it to the technical team to give me a bit of extra boost if I need it on sound. So a huge thank you to the Heritage Party for inviting myself and Charles Mallett from the UK column. It's a great pleasure to be here. We think you're all doing tremendous work, and you should be very, very proud of yourselves, because at the end of the day, the people who are going to make the difference are you, and the people you speak to, and the people you convert. So if you want to know who's fighting the battle, it's you, it's us, and it's everybody who's starting to think like us. So you're allowed to give yourselves a huge pat on the back. I'll just say, yes, I was a naval officer. That's a whole story in itself. Probably wasn't tall enough to be a police officer, but that's why we got Charles Mallett along today, because he's done both the army and the police. But we're really excited to be here. It's wonderful. Now, David said to me, would I like to speak? I said, I'd love to. We didn't discuss a title. He's now given me 30 minutes minus a few minutes to tell you how to fight the New World Order. That is quite a commitment, actually, David. So I'm going to say to you, thank you very much. So I'm going to go quite quickly. I'm going to try and give you my feelings on what we're up against. And hopefully there'll be a couple of minutes for a little bit of engagement with you at the end. But let's see how we go. Now, you notice on this opening slide that the title, Fighting the New World Order, is there, but it also says One World Governance. And this is deliberate because if you listen to what they say, they talk about it in different terms. It could be the New World Order, but then they could change it to being the rules-based international order. Right, let's get into it. This is a key thing. You can't fight what you can't see and you cannot understand. So for all of us, if we are really in a battle, we've got to understand what we're trying to fight and how it works. And that means being observant, but it also means doing a lot of research. This is not something that you can absorb in a day. If you say in simple terms, what is the battle? It's for our minds. Because by capturing our minds, they can capture everything. Everything about our life is gone. So this is psychological warfare on your mind. If you're feeling stressed, depressed, anxious, uncertain, this is all deliberate. So bear in mind, this is the battle. Right, so who are they? It's difficult to pin down who's driving it. We could call them the elite. We could give them all sorts of labels. But this has dangers because a lot of innocent people are caught up in the labels. So I'm going to say to you, the simple rule is by their fruits ye shall know them. What they do, what they say. Judge it against what's in your heart. Common sense, morality. Okay, now you've got a glimpse of this horrible little team, but something really important in this picture is that it only takes a few people to cause absolute mayhem in the world. And ultimately, I believe we're up against relatively few people. It's not millions of them. It's not even hundreds of thousands. It's a small group of people who are actually driving this horrific, chaotic agenda in the world. So we're only fighting a few. I am pleased to say I own this book. I'd love you all to be able to read it, but it's not easily available these days, and if there is a copy, it's very expensive. It's by a man called Christopher Story, but note what he calls it, not the New World Order, but the Underworld Order. And this is because criminality is inherent in the political agenda of the globalists. The two go together. It's not just a corrupted political world, it's also to do with criminality at its worst. So this was a book that was really important. Look how important the book is, how thick the book is. And also notice the symbol on the front cover, because Christopher Story said, and I believe he's right, ultimately this is a spiritual battle. Now, I can't go into today, in the brief time I've got, all of the components of what the New World Order is, but it operates wherever it can. If it can take over a local charity, it will do it. So it's foundations, think tanks, political bodies, the World Economic Forum, the UN, the Trilateral, the Atlantic Council. There are many of them, and this is why you need to research. But on this slide, I've probably captured some of the key ones. Brilliant. Little bit of a video, because we need to be sure that the New World Order is real, and we need to be sure where the allegiances of our politicians lie. Let's have a little listen to this clip.
To ask you quickly, you have to choose now between Davos or Westminster.
Davos.
Why?
Because Westminster is too constrained, and it's closed, and we're not having meaning. Once you get out of Westminster, whether it's Davos or anywhere else, you actually engage with people that you can see working with in the future. Westminster is just a tribal shouting place.
So. Right, but he's said it. His allegiance isn't to this country, his allegiance is to other people. This is really important. This is Mike Robinson in an article in the UK column back in 2009. He was commenting on Gordon Brown. I think a new world order is emerging. Let's go on to the next one and listen to what this man has to say.
We are at an inflection point, I believe, in the world economy. Not just the world economy, in the world. It occurs every 3 or 4 generations. As one of the top military people said to me in a secure meeting the other day, 60 million people died between 1900 and 1946. And since then, we established a liberal world order, and that hadn't happened in a long while. A lot of people died, but nowhere near the chaos. And now is a time when things are shifting. There's going to be a new world order out there, and we've got to lead it. And we've got to unite the rest of the free world in doing it. So anyway.
So nobody says to me there's no such thing as the New World Order. Let's go on. Here is The Independent, and actually this is where that film clip came from. But the headline, what is the New World Order and why has Joe Biden caused uproar by using the phrase? If you move it on again, there was some comment, and it talked about conspiracy theories. Well, we've just shown you the video. He's talking about it. So let's put a label across that so we can see it. Okay, so the journalist said it was an unfortunate choice of words. No, it wasn't. He was actually telling the truth as to what's coming. So let's look at this is the journalist himself, Joe Summerlad, and his professional area is US politics, otherwise the cinema, novels, and insolent noise. Well, I think he's the insolent noise, if we just press the button again. This man is arrogant, like a lot of the legacy media, and I'm not embarrassed to put him up on screen, because to try and tell an audience there's no such thing as the New World Order, is clearly ridiculous. On to the next. So another video clip, look at the date, 17 years ago. I'm just going to thank Exer 420, I have no idea who that is, but they were conscientious enough to keep this clip. Let's have a look.
All these new challenges are bringing together about the biggest restructuring we have ever seen, not just of the global economy, but of the global order as a whole. And 200 years ago, a famous British Foreign Secretary said that the new world had been called into existence to redress the balance of the old. In 1990, another old world ended, dominated by the Cold War, and people talked then, in 1990, of a new world order. What they actually meant then was a new political order. And what was not foreseen then, but is obvious now from everything that we see and do, what we experience in every day of our life, is the sheer scale and speed and scope of globalisation. And it's only now that we can begin to understand that the world order that globalisation brings and what it's going to look like, it's driven forward now not just by the balance of military strength, the Cold War times, or ordinary political power. It's being driven forward by a seismic shift in economic power that we see around us. But what does the New World Order mean for countries like ours who are looking to succeed? I suggest that the countries that are going to succeed are those that combine flexibility, free trade, open markets, with proper stewardship of the environment and investment in education, infrastructure and innovation. And the question for us is how we meet and master all these challenges to ensure that Britain enhances its competitiveness in the process and realises what I believe is our destiny of success in this new world order. So, in conclusion, ladies and gentlemen, a new world is emerging. It is a new world order with significantly different and radically new challenges for the future.
So a very astute person who picked up that video clip. Gordon Brown is either unbelievably ignorant and he doesn't know what he's doing, or he's a liar. I believe he's a liar. And I also believe he's a traitor, because the nation means nothing to him. So if we move on, UK column has been warning and warning and warning about a lot of this stuff, but this is the front page of the UK column newspaper. Yes, we did produce a newspaper, and black and red we used because we said the New World Order essentially had fascist-type attributes, and I still believe that's absolutely true. Okay, let's ram the point home, because now we've got how they want to get the New World Order into play.
Question is, what is the best way to run our country? And my view is that the big top-down government solutions to every problem, that isn't working anymore, and so it is time to try something different. And I think the idea of the big society is trying to help individuals and communities and voluntary bodies to come together and find solutions to the problems that we have, whether it is the provision of good schools or feeling you want to improve your neighbourhood or whatever. But yes, so that's the big idea, is that you're looking for big society answers rather than big state answers. But if you want to sort of break it down into its three individual bits, I would say, first of all, it's about devolving power to the lowest level so that if people want to play a bigger role, they can. It's about opening up the provision of public services. So again, if people want to play a bigger role in health or education or policing, they are able to do so. And it's also about, the third element is the thing that I think people most associate with it, which is social action, voluntary giving, voluntary action, volunteering, the whole of the voluntary sector, which obviously has been going on for thousands of years. I didn't invent the big society. It's been evident in many of our communities. What I want to do is just make sure that we do more of it, that we enable people to play a bigger role, and community groups and voluntary groups to play a bigger role if they want to.
Do you know what big society is? If you don't, you should do, because you're living it, because the Tories put it in place. They put it in place. On to the next. Where did the plan come from? It came from a man called Saul Alinsky, an activist. If you don't know who he is, research him, because the movement he established in the United States trained generations of community organizers, including President Obama. These are disruptors, these are negators, these are people to destroy society. And David Cameron's plan based on Saul Alinsky tactics. So for people who think the Conservative Party is something special, no, it's involved in the same agenda. If we go to the second part of the quote, here we're pointing out that Saul Alinsky wrote a book called Rules for Radicals. This was about how to destroy society in order to change it. And the book is dedicated to Lucifer. I'm not making this up. Go and get the book online, read it, because many of the techniques we can also use, but the book is very malicious because essentially anything is permitted to destroy society to create the new world order, the rules-based international order. So here's a picture of Saul Alinsky. Of course, he's dressed quite nicely because this is part of the tactics, is to appear to be nice, appear to be upstanding while you destroy society. And our front page on the right of that was talking about not only Alinsky, but the fact we were warning that there was a massive censorship of media coming, which you can now see and experience, because clearly the Heritage Party is being shadow censored and banned, as all the parties challenging the government. Now, a key part of the agenda to destroy society is the change agenda. When you hear politicians saying, we're going to give you change, they never tell you what the change is. Because if they did, they would be revealing what the actual new world order is. Common purpose was key in psychological change of everything, particularly the civil service and the NHS. And towards 1 million change agents was not from the UK column team. That is what an NHS common purpose trained person said the NHS needed in order to deliver proper health care. 1 million change agents off their heads, reframed. This is a psychological battle for our mind. Here we were warning about big society. The little box in the middle of the screen is taken from the front cover of the Conservatives' document, Big Society. But we were warning that you had Saul Alinsky mixed with specialists. Top row centre is a Frenchman called Olivier Willier, and he worked with Sarkozy as his psychological guru, how to use applied psychology to change how people think. Look online for a document called Mindspace, MINDSPACE. You'll find it as a PDF. It's from the Cabinet Office, and in it the government boasted they could change the way people thought or the way they think, and individuals will not know it's even happened. This is real, and your own government has been doing it. We've also been warning about the cabal, the Stasi state, particularly coming in through the Tory party, more and more organisations working with the police to spy on the public in order to try and prevent what we are actually doing here, which is challenge the government. I can't talk any more about this because it's too detailed, but it's real. The state is now spying on us on a daily basis, particularly if we're challenging anything the government says. So this is my comment. The sound is not very good because a lady recorded it on the phone. Well, actually, it was Debbie Evans, but I decided to use her clip. This is me speaking to the audience back in February about what I think was happening. To the audience is, if there's anybody out there that thinks that UK is still run by an elected government, they're sadly mistaken, because the government is simply the puppet of the world agenda, and it's those global policies which are doing the damage today. In my opinion, we're being attacked by our own government. That's the key phrase. If you do not understand, thank you. If you don't understand policies and they don't make sense to you, you're confused by them, it's because they are attacking you, us. This is so important. This is a battle for minds. And if you want to fight the battle, you have to see the full picture. And that means a lot of hard work. So, this is the good news. Just press the button once. Freedom, family, nation. Seems a small thing. Let's press that button again. The fact you are here under that banner with those headlines, I've described it as kryptonite to the New World Order, because they want all of these things destroyed. So the moment you show, as David has done here, that you recognize the key standing blocks of your nation and society, you are absolutely at the forefront of the battle against the New World Order, which wants one global government. So I'm going to say well done to you as a party, well done to David, well done to all the people who've stood up for election. You are the backbone, along with others fighting in this way. Okay. I'm looking at Charles because he knows this one very well, but if you're in a battle, it's people that count first. You need to be trained, you need teamwork, you've got to have very high morale, and you've got to be tenacious. You've got to stay at the battle. We are in a battle. It's real. It's every minute of every day. But if you want to win it, you've got to work with other people. Yes, we will have disagreements. No, we will not agree on everything, but we've got to stick together. Because if we stick together, we can actually beat this system when enough people are awake. Stick together, work as teams, love one another, morale, tenacity, we can do it. So, I looked at the program for today. That's what's on screen. It's probably a bit faint. Press the button once. So, we have a speaker talking about medical ethics. We've got to be healthy to fight. You can't be in the army if you're weak and ill. Press it again. We've got to have free speech because the New World Order wants to control every word that comes out of our mouth. So Charles, in a minute, is going to be talking about free speech. Press again. Looking after the nation state. The objective of the global elite is to destroy nation states. They're saying this quite openly. Culture, the history, the pillars of the nation state, all to go. Our job is to reinforce them. Press again. Lunch. Very, very important. So I'm going to thank David for that as well, because an army fights on its stomach. Look after yourselves. Let's go on, because after lunch we've got some more speakers, so one press. Press once. We've got to protect our children. The New World Order knows that if it can take hold, destroy the minds of our children, it automatically controls the future. There's a quote from Hitler where he says he doesn't care about the present generation, he cares about youth, because if he has the youth, he controls the future. This is why they're going for our children and why we've got to stop this perverted, pernicious attack on children's minds. One press. The Constitution, they want to destroy it because that's part of destroying the nation state. Therefore, we have to protect the Constitution. And if we want to protect the Constitution, we need to understand it. That's a lot of hard work and research. One more, animal welfare. People who hurt animals very often go on to hurt people. It's certainly true if they're children when they do it. So if you see cruelty to animals, including the animals that we eat, accepting this is part of living, right, beware, because with it comes cruelty to people. Next. What have we got here? Well, the Christian aspect, the New World Order wants to destroy any relationship with a loving God. This is fundamental. It wants to destroy true faith because you cannot have proper faith, because if you do, you will understand that the New World Order is inherently evil. So the spirituality, as I mentioned with Christopher's story in his book, The New Underworld Order, key. One more. Here we are. This is so important because all of you who stood up for election, it takes a lot of hard work. It takes guts. I've done it myself. I stood as a parliamentary candidate. It was exhausting, but I learned a lot. So if you didn't get elected, don't be disheartened. You learnt, and you now know how to fight. You need to encourage more people to do it. On another one. This is a diagram I've used over many years. Got to do this really quickly because I'm watching for my time. 5 minutes. Okay, this is the structure of society. So at the bottom you can see, left-hand side, ordinary families, skilled workers, professional politicians, judiciary, bankers, and Luciferians. So I'm just saying that, in my opinion, as you go up the layers of that pyramid of power, what actually happens is that the perversion, the corruption increases. And that's what the red is showing, that as you go up the pyramid, by the time you get near the top, it's all corrupted. It's not like the bottom, where amongst most people there are a few corrupted people. When you get to the top of the power base, you're dealing with everything corrupted. But where do we have to fight? Well, we could go and damage our heads banging them against the people at the top, but it's pointless because they're corrupted. What we have to do is get out amongst ordinary people at the lowest level in order to spread the word that we're all under attack. This is what the New World Order is very frightened of, spreading the word amongst the mass of the public. So if you don't know how to fight, every word that comes out of your mouth is important. On the train, in the Tesco queue, at the local community group, standing on the street. Speech is important because the attack is on our minds. So here's good news for you, okay? Because you should be happy fighting, because the New World Order, even politicians, hate people who are informed and fighting and are happy. It spooks them that you're happy because they're trying to make you miserable and depressed. So the happier you can be as you fight, the more powerful you are. And I'm not joking about this, I absolutely mean this. Be happy, because that spreads. One more slide. This is the key message. It's not just about the abortion clinics. We now live in a country where the politicians who are adherents to New World Order policy are making it a criminal offence to pray. Why? Because they are utterly terrified of it. There's a BBC documentary you can find on YouTube. It's called The Witches. It's in black and white. I think it's from the very early 80s. And it's talking about some pretty unpleasant societies, Luciferian, satanic societies. And in it, they speak to a woman who's escaped from the capture of this stuff. And the BBC reporter, it's actually well done by the BBC, he says to her, "You've escaped the clutches of these wicked, evil people. You say they're very powerful. Is there anything that they are frightened of?" She looks at the camera and she says, "They are terrified of the power of prayer." So I'm not going to preach to you because that would be wrong. This is something that affects all spiritual people worldwide. But my closing message to you is threefold. You, as the Heritage Party, have done brilliantly. Keep fighting, keep spreading the word. Be happy in the battle, whatever happens, and take some quiet time for yourselves to pray. And that, I believe, is the three essential things for fighting the world order. You won't solve it, I won't solve it. It's going to be millions of good people of all colours, beliefs, creeds coming together to fight what is a beast. Thank you very much.